Welcome back to Solo Marvel Champion, where I've got another topic video for you. As always, check the description for more YouTube creators making videos for Marvel Champions. And if you like what you saw here today, please consider a like, sub, and comment to help the channel grow. With that out of the way, let's get to today's topic. Alright, my favorite hero and villain from Wave 9. I'm going to start with the heroes and just talk about each hero a little bit before I tell you what my favorite is. So let's start with Maria Hill. I do like Maria Hill. I like the including shield cards from other aspects. I love searching for a shield support. And I love, if it's going to open up, I love this reassignment action. Move a counter from one shield support to another. I think that's cool. Each ally you control gains the shield trait. I honestly forget about that every time I'm building a deck for her, so I haven't really taken advantage of that. There are some things you can do with that, though, because field agents, prevent consequential damage from going on shield allies. Well, if every ally you have is shield, even if they're X-Men or Guardian, whatever, they are also shield. So in Maria Hill, the field agents works for every ally you have. I just forget about this all the time. All Points Bulletin has become a really fun card for me. I think I overlooked it earlier playing her because I liked to stay down in Alter Ego as much. And it's a hero action card. But in games where you get a ton of shield supports out, All Points Bulletin can do a lot of work from you. It is neither thwart nor attack, so it'll get around patrol, but not a crisis icon. And it will also get around guard and stun. So, and this would also get around a confuse because it's removing, it's not thwarting. And this card is really good when you have 5 or 6 supports out. I have only been able to pop this for 6. I had a game where I had 7 shield supports in play, and then my encounter card was a caught off guard. So I got rid of one of them, and I was down to 6. I've pulled 6 off a few times, but I've never been able to do this for more than 6. But it's a very good card. My biggest problem with Maria, and it's not really a problem, it's just a way I like to play and a way I don't like to play, is the Pericles. Of course, I don't have to play the Pericles, and I don't play the Pericles. I think the Pericles makes her way overpowered just because you can keep adding counters to this, and then every single turn, you stun the villain or confuse the villain and give maybe a minion a stun or confused as well. And that's very, very powerful. And if you want to play that, that's fine, play that. But for me, I think it makes Maria too powerful. And I think it makes Maria specifically too powerful. If you play the Pericles in another character who isn't going to be adding counters to this, and who isn't going to be able to search for it in Alter Ego, I think the Pericles is fine. I just think it makes Maria way too overpowered. I haven't actually played the Douglas. I feel like if I'm playing Justice, I don't need it because I have plenty of ability to thwart. And when I'm playing other aspects, I would rather go with the Bellerophon. Bellerophon is excellent minion control, and I prioritize the Bellerophon. I've been putting this in every Maria Hill deck. I also haven't played the Circe. Exhaust it, remove a counter, choose a player. That player puts an ally into play from their hand. Now that can be really powerful. If you have an expensive ally, like Dum Dum Dugan, for example, or Captain America in Leadership, who costs 6 but gets a reduction, the Circe can be very, very powerful. I just haven't been playing it. So for the main part, or for the most part, I should say, I play Bellerophon and the Iliad in Maria Hill, and I feel like that has been plenty. I I really do like Maria. I just think she gets a little bit samey. Now, I've played games where I just focus on Bellerophon and the Iliad. I have games with her where I've never made a basic attack with her or with an ally because those two carriers are doing all the work for me. And I've also tried to play games where I don't ever get the big carriers out. And they're very different games for sure. But she definitely, obviously, does way better using these big carriers. So, for me, anyway, she gets a little bit samey over time. Next, let's talk about Nick. I really do like Nick as well. I love staying in stealth mode as long as possible and then just flipping when I want to deal a big bunch of damage. I don't know, man. Nick is a blast for me. I love concentrated fire. You build up counters on your stealth suit. You get a minion, and I've been thinking about, adding cards in Nick which give you a minion, because concentrated fire, yes, it can deal a lot of damage. It can deal up to 7 damage based on how many counters you want to spend. But the biggest thing is, when you do that, you're siphoning threat off of your suit so that you can get back to stealth and not worry about missing out on this ability. Place 1 threat from that activation here instead of on the main if there are 5 or less threat on this card. So if this goes to 6, this ability is turned off. So I like to have ways to siphon threat, even if I'm going to use concentrated fire to defeat a 3 hit point minion, say, I'm still going to pull 3 off of stealth suit to make this deal 7. And I'm going to do that because, number 1, it's going to siphon it, and because I've defeated that minion, it lets me change back to stealth suit form. So I really like Nick. I've had a lot of fun playing Nick. Fury's car is a way to siphon 1 threat off of the suit. His watch can siphon 2 threat off of the suit. And, you have some encounter card, or at least some treachery protection with intelligence analysis. I really, really like this card. Now, some of the cards that came with him, I haven't played yet, so I don't want to say they're not good cards, but I really like Nick. Nick's a lot of fun. Next, we're going to go to Black Panther. When I first saw her, I thought, I'm going to love her. She is going to be my favorite in the wave. She does a lot of really good things. She can draw a ton of cards with Elephant's Trunk, especially if you also have Queen Ramonda and a Wakanda ally in play, or the Dora Milaje in play. Exhaust this and Queen Ramonda and Dora Milaje and draw 3 cards. That's fantastic. Everything she does and everything her brother T'Challa does lets you trigger a special off of one of your upgrades. So there's a lot of, ping damage or ping threat removal, and it's really easy to trigger. Clawed Strike, deal 4, and trigger a special. On the Prowl, remove 3 threat and trigger a special. T'Challa attacks or thwarts, trigger a special. You attack or thwart or defend, trigger a special. Shuri is an absolute blast. I love playing her. One of my favorite heroes, not early, probably middle of my quote-unquote Marvel Champions career, was Black Panther. And this version of Black Panther is way stronger, in my opinion, than T'Challa was, and I'm absolutely loving Black Panther. I thought Silk was going to be complicated. It turns out she's not. She's a lot of fun, and the ability to tuck cards under her, and if you've seen my videos, I don't tuck them under Silk because it just messes up my play area. I set them to the side in a quote-unquote tuck area. But being able to do that is fun. Swinging Silk Kick, possibly 9 damage with Overkill is a ton of fun. Wall Crawl can do a lot of threat removal for you. Her support, Albert Moon, is great. And it basically is, and I talked about this in my Silk video, Albert Moon is basically exhaust, draw 2 cards, because you can exhaust and get a tuck, and immediately spend that tuck to draw 2 cards. J. Jonah Jameson, I don't play as often as I would like to, because he is very strong. I need to play him more often. Organic Webbing, Spider Reflexes, these are the 2 that I prioritize. Claws is good as well, but I'm more likely to skip this on the first deck pass and make sure I get Organic Webbing and Spider Reflexes down. Organic Webbing gives you +1 thwart, that gets you up to 2, but also it allows you to exhaust this, discard one of your tucks to ready. And I think the readying is super important. Spider Reflexes, when she defends, exhaust this, and you get +1 defense for each card tucked that shares, the encounter set with the attacking enemy. That's awesome. You might get up to +4 defense on this. That's not necessarily what I care about with this card. What I care about the most is, after this attack, tuck the top card of the encounter deck discard pile. Let's read that again. After this attack, tuck the top card of the encounter discard pile under Silk. This helps you tuck cards. So you're not just, focusing on Smoothest Silk and her response. After you defeat a minion or side scheme or resolve a treachery card, tuck that card. So I really love Spider Reflexes. I really love Organic Webbing. Silk is an absolute blast. I love Silk. Next, we're going to go to Falcon. Falcon is growing on me. I've played him a lot more recently, and I really like being able to mess around with the encounter deck. My favorite card for him, I talked about in my favorite cards video, is Aerial Recon, because you can know exactly what your encounter card is going to be, whether you flip down to Alter Ego or stay up in hero form. You can say, okay, I like that card on the top of the deck. That will be my encounter card. You place a recon counter here, and then when the villain would deal you an encounter card, you remove the recon counter and say, nope. So then you're getting that one encounter card which you have pre-chosen. That is very strong. I'm starting to like Aerial Evacuation a little bit more. This is a card that I really didn't like the first couple times I played him, but I think the key thing for this is when another friendly character would be dealt any amount of damage, and I originally read that as damage from an attack. So, number one, it's a preparation, which means you can trigger this and then get it back into your hand with, oh man, I don't know why I have such a hard time remembering the name of that card. It's the 0 cost preparation that puts this back into your hand. I'll think of it. I'll put it on the screen. I really don't know why I can never remember the name of that card because I use it a lot. But so you trigger that to get this back in hand. It's also aerial, so your Falcon's flock can pay for it. Also, and this is the thing that I don't think a lot of people are using it for, but you can, it's any amount of damage. So if you have a minion who is a minion, if you have an ally who is right on the cusp, 1 HP away from getting knocked out, when they would take their consequential damage, discard this, prevent all of that damage, and flip to Alter Ego. Now you can do the things you want to do in Alter Ego, which might be recovering with Soup Kitchen, which is also going to allow you to play a supporter ally for 2 less. You might do your Alter Ego ability. Discard a card from your hand, search for a bird. Searching for a bird is going to find you Redwing, who is amazing, or Falcon's Flock if you're not playing any other birds in your deck. Then, because that was a flip down because of an ability, you can still flip back up and do other things you want to do in hero form. So, Falcon is growing on me. His ability to know what's coming out of the encounter deck is really, really powerful. I think it requires a little more work on my part to make everything work out the way I want it to work out. Up and Away is a really cool card. And the thing about this one is, whether you swap those cards or not, you're going to know what your encounter card is. So let's say your encounter card or the top card has 0 boost on it. So you're like, okay, that's great. I'm not going to take any damage. But then the other card you look at has 3 boost. Well, I'm fine taking 3 extra damage here. So I am going to swap those, number 1, because it lets me draw 3 cards. Number 2, because that 0 boost card is going to be my encounter card, and I'm fine getting that card as my encounter card, but I don't necessarily want that 3 boost card as my encounter card. So it really helps you decide, do I want to take the extra damage? Do I want to get, which of these cards do I want as an encounter card? Now, if you want neither of them as an encounter card, you've just played an aerial card, which means you can discard the top card of the encounter deck. Now, you don't know what your boost is going to be, but you know it's not that card that you don't want to be your encounter card. So Falcon is growing on me. I've had fun with him, and I'm going to continue playing him. I feel like he's one that really benefit from more plays from him to really get to know him better. Winter Soldier, man, I love Winter Soldier. I love everything he's doing in his kit. His cybernetic arm increasing damage on attack events. And then the attack events that he has are great. Metal Punch, if you used your arm, it also gains Overkill. Okay, that's 3 for 8 with Overkill. Love it. Discharge, electrical discharge, deal 4 to an enemy. If you paid for it with an energy resource, stun that enemy. Well, if you used your arm, it generates a wild. So you can say, okay, that's energy. Now I'm dealing 5 and stunning. Fantastic. Safe House is great. You want to defeat minions. So Safe House gets you a minion and draws you a card. Silent Infiltration. After you defeat an enemy, discard this, ready and confuse an enemy. So very powerful. Armor, +3 and steady. Mask, after you defeat an enemy, exhaust it to draw a card. Rifle, +2 attack. Piercing and ranged. That's awesome. So I really enjoy him, and he gives me he provides me with another hero that I can beat Ultron with easily. I love beating Ultron, and Winter Soldier does it pretty darn easily. So I really like Winter Soldier. So those are the 6 heroes in the wave. Which one is my favorite? Drum roll, please. I love Silk. I didn't expect to love Silk as much as I did. I really thought that Black Panther was going to be my favorite in this wave, but I really love Silk. I like playing her in aggression for good old Spider-Woman. No, you get a lot of value with Spider-Woman, especially if you have SPDR. You're always bringing SPDR back to hand, playing her again, and that deals some extra damage. Anytime you put a Web Warrior into play, anytime a Web Warrior ally enters play, deal damage to an enemy, that is super huge. So I love Silk, and I love playing her in aggression. All right, Silk is my favorite hero. Who is my favorite villain? Let's go down to villains here. Sorry for the fast scrolling. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm just going to talk about each villain before I tell you who is my favorite. Black Widow has been okay. I like what she's doing because it gives you another reason to be concerned with threat on the main scheme besides, oh, if it has too much, I lose. You know, getting all the threat off of the main scheme so that you can attack her without worrying about her forced interrupt is a lot of fun. Now, in Expert, I've never had a problem with Black Widow. I've won every... did I say Expert? In Standard, I've never had a problem with Black Widow. Every Standard Black Widow game I've played, I've won. Little bit different in Expert. In Expert, so much threat is going on to the main, whether it's the step 1 of the villain phase threat. You know, this goes up by her stage number. So on stage 2, it's going up 2. Stage 3, it's going up 3. Also, it makes flipping down to Alter Ego a little scarier, unless you can confuse her, because she's scheming for 2 and 3 respectively. Now, this 2 on stage 1 isn't bad because only 1 threat went on at the beginning of the villain phase. So, Standard, I've had no problem with Black Widow. Expert is a lot more difficult in my opinion. But I do like Black Widow. Next, we're going to get to Batroc. I'm going to say that I prefer him in Expert for a couple reasons. Number one, he has 12 hit points, which means you have to work a little bit harder to get his forced interrupt. When Batroc would be defeated, reset his hit points to 12, then remove 6, instead of just 8. Like a lot of times you can deal 8 to a villain fairly easily. I'm not going to say super easily, but fairly easily. And that extra hit point cushion really makes a difference. The other thing in Batroc that I prefer him in Expert because of is alert level. So alert level is going to start with 2 when you're playing in Expert. That comes from his main scheme here. Set the captives aside, put the alert level on low. In Expert, put 2 on alert level. This already gives you something to think about when you play him. Because with 2 on there, you might need to, quote unquote, waste some resources early to get rid of that threat. And that's going to slow your initial build down. The alert level on high gives him +1 scheme and +1 attack. And you don't want to get on high. So you want to stay on low as long as you can. So that extra 2 threat going on in Expert mode really changes the game. So I like Batroc a lot, and I prefer him on Expert, which is not something I can say for most villains. Now, this scenario does have kind of a runaway mechanic, is what I call it. Once you start getting these captives into play, it's easier to get more of the captives into play. But this scenario doesn't suffer from that as much as the next scenario does. MODOK, I've never actually played him on Expert. I have played him on Standard every time I've played him. But he definitely has a runaway mechanic. These holding cells, they have lock counters on them, and once you remove all the lock counters, you flip this card over to the Inhuman that was locked in that cell. And depending on which one you get first, it's either just a runaway game or a crazy runaway game. Because if you get the Psionic Inhuman first, all you have to do with him is thwart, and he removes a lock counter. So definitely run away, because as you get these Inhumans rescued, they just make you really, really strong, and getting Psionic Inhuman first, or maybe even just second, really adds to the runaway. Now, I don't think MODOK is hard at all. Retaliate 1 does suck. On Expert, he has Retaliate 2 and Steady. Not so worried about that. Now, he does have only 10 hit points in Standard, which is fine. That's still more than the 8 that Batroc has in Standard. And he goes up to 14 in Expert. Now, you do have to defeat MODOK, whereas you didn't have to defeat Batroc. All you have to do in Batroc is get that final stage down to 0. So you do still have to attack MODOK and worry about that Retaliate. But I don't think I like him as much because of that Runaway, especially if you get Psionic and Human early. You can just run away with this scenario, and I mean, that can be fun the first couple times you do it, but then afterwards it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to run away with this game, so why bother playing it, kind of is the way I feel. So MODOK is, I'm going to say MODOK is okay. But I do lower him in my appreciation of him just because of that runaway aspect. Next, we're going to come to Thunderbolts. I like Thunderbolts primarily because of the customizability of it, choosing the Thunderbolts. And I think we have 4 Thunderbolt encounter sets now, right? And I have not come close to playing all of those combinations. But it really changes the game depending on which Thunderbolts you get. So I like it for that aspect. I hate Citizen V's sword because you attach it to him and he activates against you and he's getting buffed. So maybe he just attacked you for 2 with 2 boosts. So he's just attacked you for 4. This comes out as the encounter card and now he's attacking for 3 with a boost again, or scheming for 3 with a boost. So I don't like that card per se. But, and if you're on B, if you're on Expert, now he's a 4/3. That's kind of the reason I don't like Collector 1 in Expert. These numbers just get too big in Expert, especially if Citizens V Sword comes out. Now, Innocent Bystanders is a cool card. After you attack an enemy or an enemy attacks you, spend a resource of any type or place a threat on the main, and then you get to remove 1 bystander from here. So you're either, quote-unquote, wasting resources. I say quote-unquote because, you don't have to do it, but anytime you have to waste a resource, that's lowering what you can do on your turn. But I like that card. I like all of the Thunderbolts that I have played. I haven't played them all. I've played Moonstone. I've played Songgirl. I've played Black Widow. I have not played Radioactive Man because I hate that minion so much. I have not played Mach 4. I have played Batroc. And then we have the ones from... And actually, that's 5. Does that mean we have 9 of them now? That's 6. So we have 10 of them now. I haven't played any of them from the back of the pack Thunderbolts yet. But of the ones I've played, I've thought they were really interesting. I like Citizen V. On my 4th of July game, I absolutely crushed him with Captain America. That was a lot of fun. And if you've read the comments on that, I'm going to say some stuff that you already know. But I had done all of my practice with him in Expert. And I had some really, really long games playing him in Expert. Primarily because of, what is that card? Down but not out. Choose a random Thunderbolt minion from the victory display and reveal it. So now you have beaten the 1 Thunderbolt you need to take out Citizen V, but this card comes in and brings that Thunderbolt right back into play. Then you put some damage on that Thunderbolt, remove this from the game, but what ends up happening is if you can't defeat that Thunderbolt again right away, they're going to be the one that has the most damage, so they end up getting swapped out, healing, potentially getting a tough, And this card made my expert games really, really long. I don't think I ever drew this card when I was playing standard, but it seemed like every game I played in expert, this came out. And primarily, that's because the numbers in expert get bigger, right? Even if I can defeat a Thunderbolt, now I've got to deal 16 damage to Citizen V. And if I can't do that quickly enough, I get more encounter cards. I had Jolt come out a few times. That's a Thunderbolt. So he's going to just heal, and you have to deal with a Thunderbolt minion because Thunderbolts gain guard. I don't dislike Citizen V. I really like the customizability with all of the Thunderbolts we have. And like I said, I have not come close to, number one, playing all of the Thunderbolts, but also not playing all the combinations of Thunderbolts. So you get a lot of replayability in him just trying to play all of those different combinations. Finally, we're going to come to Baron Zemo. Baron Zemo, I kind of said early that I like the idea of him because it gives you a taste of the campaign. But after playing him like 3 or 4 times, I don't think I like Baron Zemo. Main thing is, he can, especially after he gets his sword really changes the game. Of course, you can get rid of it, but he's a lot tougher than I expected him to be. And even though I said I like the idea of getting a taste of the campaign, it is kind of I don't want to say a bummer. It's a pain to have to set up all of the campaign stuff, even if I'm not playing the campaign. And I thought I would like that. I just don't. So there are some interesting things like this Reluctant Foe. I have never had this come out with him, but this is a crazy cool card. I love this card. When revealed, search your collection for a hero whose title does not match a character in play, put it into play, engage with you, and attach this to him. Treat the attached hero as an elite minion with scheme equal to its printed thwart. Replace its printed text box with villainous. When defeated, remove this hero and Reluctant Foe from the game. I think this is so cool because it turns another hero into a minion you have to defeat. And that's super, super cool. I was thinking about using this card in a custom campaign that I'm designing. And I think that would be really cool. I haven't decided if I'm going to do that yet, but I may end up using this card in a custom campaign. I just think it's cool. And I think, if you're going to be playing Baron Zemo, you have 2 or 3 heroes set aside and, with a mix of abilities, and then roll randomly for the one that actually comes in with Reluctant Foe. I think that would be the best way to play that. Thankfully, I have not had Reluctant Foe come into play. And this Reluctant Foe, especially with the Civil War stuff we're seeing going to be coming out soon, I think it's such a cool design and such a cool card. I don't really have much more to say about Baron Zemo. He's okay, a little bit annoying, and that's all I really want to say. He's okay and a little bit annoying. So now, I've talked enough. What is my favorite villain? And I do want to start by saying I know that the scenario pack will be coming out as part of this wave, so I haven't actually played every villain in this wave because Loki and Enchantress are going to be villains in Wave 9. So I should have called this favorite hero from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but, that's just a longer title. I think favorite Wave 9 hero and villain is easier. It rolls off the tongue a little bit easier. All right, enough dilly-dally. My favorite villain is Batroc, especially on Expert. I am infamous for loving Collector 1. And Batroc on Expert does some of the things that Collector does, but he does them better. Main thing is, instead of tucking a card or putting a card into the collection, you're adding threat to the alert level. But here you can spend a resource of any type, remove a threat from here. That's unlimited. With the collection, one player or each player can only do that one time per round, and that's too limiting. It's too difficult to get cards out of the collection. Also, some of the cards that go into the collection don't make sense, and it could easily just hit its max on one bad encounter card. This, you have way more control over what goes into the collection, or onto alert level, I should say, and how much goes on alert level. So, this is already at 3. Well, I can't defeat that minion just yet. Let me get rid of some threat on the alert level before I defeat that minion. Oh, that minion also, when defeated, is going to add a threat. So now 2 would go on. Okay, now I need to remove 2 threat from here just so that I can defeat that minion. I think that is brilliant design, and it gives me the same feeling as the collector that I can manage alert level. I have an extra thing to manage. So while Collector 1 has always been kind of one of my favorites because of that aspect, it gives me something else to manage. I think Batroc does it way better. And Batroc on Expert, I think, has taken Collector's place for me as my favorite villain in the game. So Collector 1 has, for a long time, been my favorite villain because of those management aspects. Expert Batroc replaces Collector 1 for me. You have some of the same stuff going on, threat going on instead of cards going to the collection, but it's way more manageable and way more fair, I think. So Batroc, favorite in Wave 9. Also, I think, maybe my favorite villain right now. So that's it. Favorite hero is Silk. Favorite villain is Batroc, specifically on Expert. The challenge on Expert isn't insurmountable, and I think really adds to the ability to manage the game. Or maybe not the ability, but the necessity to manage the game. So those are my favorites from Wave 9, Silk and Batroc. Let me know in the comments what your favorites are. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a marvelous day.